Hello, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're journeying back in time to one of the most devastating and complex conflicts in European history, the 30 Years' War. This wasn't just a single war, but a tangled web of conflicts fought between 1618 and 1648. It reshaped the continent, drawing in nearly every major European power and leaving an indelible mark on politics, religion, and society that we can still see today. So, grab your cup of tea, and let's unravel this epic story. Imagine Europe in the early 17th century. The Protestant Reformation, started by Martin Luther a century earlier, had fractured the religious unity of the Holy Roman Empire. This empire, a patchwork of hundreds of semi-independent states, was a tinderbox. The Peace of Augsburg in 1555 had tried to calm things down with a simple principle: cuius regio, ius religio, meaning whose realm, his religion. Essentially, the ruler of a state could decide if it was Lutheran or Catholic. But what about Calvinism, which was spreading rapidly? The treaty didn't mention it, creating a huge legal and religious gray area. Tensions were simmering, ready to boil over at the slightest provocation. That provocation came on May 23, 1618, in Prague, the capital of Bohemia. The future Holy Roman Emperor, Ferdinand II, was a devout Catholic and wanted to impose his faith on the predominantly Protestant Bohemians. In an act of defiance, a group of Protestant nobles stormed Prague Castle, and in a moment that has become legendary, threw two of Ferdinand's imperial representatives and their secretary out of a window. This event is famously known as the Second Defenestration of Prague. Miraculously, the men survived the 70-foot fall, landing in a pile of manure. Catholics claimed they were saved by angels. Protestants joked they were saved by the dung. Regardless of divine intervention, this act lit the fuse, and the Bohemian revolt began. This first phase, the Bohemian phase, saw the rebels depose Ferdinand and offer the crown to a Protestant prince, Frederick V. Frederick, hoping for support from other Protestant states, accepted, but help was slow to come. Ferdinand, now Holy Roman Emperor, assembled a powerful Catholic army. The decisive clash came at the Battle of White Mountain in 1620. It was a crushing defeat for the Bohemians. Frederick, derisively nicknamed the Winter King for his short reign, fled into exile. Ferdinand re-established control, brutally suppressing Protestantism in Bohemia. It seemed like the conflict might end there, a swift victory for the Catholics, but it was only the beginning. Alarmed by the growing Catholic power, other Protestant rulers decided to intervene. This kicked off the Danish phase. King Christian IV of Denmark, a Lutheran, feared the Catholic Habsburgs would threaten his own kingdom. With some financial backing from England and the Netherlands, he led an army into northern Germany to support the Protestant cause. However, he was no match for the brilliant and ruthless imperial general, Albrecht von Wallenstein. Wallenstein raised a massive private army, funded by plundering the lands it occupied. He defeated Christian IV time and again, forcing Denmark out of the war by 1629. The Catholic cause seemed stronger than ever. Emperor Ferdinand issued the Edict of Restitution, demanding the return of all church lands that had become Protestant since the 1550s. This was a massive power grab, and it terrified even some of his Catholic allies. Just when it seemed the Habsburgs were unstoppable, a new champion entered the fray for the Protestants, King Gustavus Adolphus of Sweden. This marks the beginning of the Swedish phase. Gustavus Adolphus was a military genius. He landed in Germany in 1630, not just for religious reasons, but also to secure Swedish dominance over the Baltic Sea, bankrolled by Catholic Franciscans. You heard that right, who feared a strong Holy Roman Empire more than it cared about religious unity. Gustavus Adolphus turned the tide. He introduced innovative tactics, like mobile artillery and disciplined infantry formations, that shocked his opponents. He won a stunning victory at the Battle of Breitenfeld in 1631, shattering the myth of imperial invincibility. For a moment, it looked like the Protestants might win the whole war. The Swedish advance was devastating. Gustavus Adolphus marched deep into Germany, liberating Protestant cities. The desperate Emperor Ferdinand had to recall Wallenstein, the general he had previously dismissed out of suspicion. The two great commanders finally met at the Battle of Lutzen in 1632. The Swedes won the battle, but at a terrible cost. Gustavus Adolphus was killed in action. His death was a massive blow to the Protestant cause. Without its charismatic leader, the Swedish campaign lost its momentum. Meanwhile, Wallenstein himself was assassinated in 1634 on the emperor's orders, who feared his general was becoming too powerful and might even be plotting against him. The war was becoming a brutal, leaderless slugfest. With Sweden weakened and Germany in ruins, France decided it was time to step out of the shadows and intervene directly. This final and bloodiest stage is known as the French phase. Up to this point, the war had been, at least on the surface, about religion. Now it was purely political. Catholic France, led by the cunning Cardinal Richelieu, openly allied with the Protestant Swedes, and Dutch against the Catholic Habsburgs of Spain and the Holy Roman Empire. The war had become a continental power struggle. For another decade, armies crisscrossed Germany, fighting, plundering, and spreading disease. The civilian population suffered immensely. Armies lived off the land, which meant they stripped entire regions of food and resources, leading to widespread famine and death. By the 1640s, all sides were exhausted. Decades of fighting had bankrupted kingdoms and decimated populations. The Holy Roman Empire alone may have lost between 20 and 40% of its people. Negotiations for peace began in 1644 in the Westphalian towns of Munster and Osnabrück, but the fighting continued for 4 more years as each side tried to gain a better bargaining position on the battlefield. Finally, in 1648, the Peace of Westphalia was signed, bringing the 30 Years' War to an end. The consequences of this peace treaty were monumental. It redrew the map of Europe and established principles that would govern international relations for centuries. The treaty recognized Calvinism alongside Catholicism and Lutheranism, finally settling the religious question in the empire. More importantly, it granted the individual states of the Holy Roman Empire the right to conduct their own foreign policy, effectively gutting the emperor's power and paving the way for the rise of states like Prussia. The Netherlands and Switzerland were formally recognized as independent nations. France emerged as the dominant power on the continent, while Spain began its long decline. Perhaps the most enduring legacy of the Peace of Westphalia was the concept of national sovereignty, the idea that each state has authority over its own territory and domestic affairs, free from external interference. This principle became the foundation of the modern state system we live in today. The 30 Years' War started over religion, but it ended by creating a new political order in Europe, one based on the balance of power between independent sovereign states rather than religious unity. It was a brutal, tragic conflict, but one that fundamentally shaped the world we know. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the 30 Years' War. It's a complex piece of history, but a crucial one for understanding modern Europe. If you found this video interesting, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next historical adventure. Let me know in the comments what topic you'd like to see next. Until then, stay curious.